He looked like any other homeless man on the subway platform, clutching a worn duffel bag and avoiding eye contact. But when the train derailed and chaos erupted, passengers watched in stunned silence as this nobody took command with the precision of someone who'd done this before. What they discovered about his past would leave them speechless. Welcome to Story with Jorge. Before we dive into this incredible story of hidden heroism, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, hit that subscribe button. These stories matter. The 42nd Street subway platform was just another stop in the endless maze of New York's underground. Rush hour pressed bodies together like sardines, everyone staring at phones or checking watches. Nobody paid attention to the man in the corner. He sat on the cold concrete, back against the tiled wall, a faded army surplus duffel bag clutched between his knees. Gray beard, weathered hands, clothes that had seen better years. To the commuters hurrying past, he was invisible. Another casualty of a city that moved too fast to care. His name was Marcus Webb, though nobody had asked in months. The cardboard sign beside him read simply, "Veteran. Anything helps. God bless." Most people stepped around it without reading, but Marcus wasn't begging. He was watching. Always watching. Old habits from another life, another world where situational awareness meant the difference between coming home and coming home in a box. He noticed the maintenance worker who'd been drinking coffee for 20 minutes without actually working. He saw the teenager with the nervous twitch who kept checking the same backpack pocket. He observed the woman in the business suit whose eyes darted to every exit like she was planning an escape route. But most importantly, he felt the vibration in the tracks, wrong frequency, wrong rhythm. At 5:47 p.m., the northbound express came screaming around the bend at twice the normal speed. Marcus was on his feet before the first sparks flew. His duffel bag hit the ground as 3 decades of Marine Corps training kicked in like muscle memory. The train hit the curve at 65 miles per hour. The speed limit was 25. Metal screamed against metal. The lead car jumped the rails, tilted sideways, and slammed into the platform support beam with the sound of thunder. The second car jackknifed, windows exploding in a shower of glass that rained down like deadly confetti. Screams erupted from every direction. People ran blindly, some toward the exits, others toward the wreckage where their loved ones might be trapped. Chaos, pure, unfiltered chaos. But Marcus wasn't running. He was moving with purpose, his weathered hands already reaching for the emergency communication box mounted on the platform wall. His voice, steady and clear, cut through the pandemonium. "This is platform 42nd Street northbound. We have a multi-car derailment with casualties. I need fire, medical, and heavy rescue. Track power needs to be cut immediately. Do it now." The dispatcher's voice crackled back. "Sir, are you MTA personnel?" "Negative, but I know what I'm talking about. Cut the power and get me help. People are dying." He didn't wait for a response. The first car was on its side, doors crushed shut, passengers trapped inside screaming for help. Smoke was beginning to pour from underneath where electrical systems sparked and hissed. Marcus ran to the wreckage, his homeless exterior shed like an old coat. He moved like a soldier again, like a Marine who'd pulled men from burning vehicles in Fallujah, who'd carried wounded teammates through mortar fire in Afghanistan. A businessman in a torn suit was pulling frantically at the twisted door of the overturned car. "My wife!" he screamed. "She's in there! I can hear her!" Marcus placed a firm hand on the man's shoulder. "Step back. Let me work." He examined the wreckage with trained eyes. The door was wedged, but not impossible. The window above was shattered, but still held together by safety film. He needed leverage, and he needed it fast. The smell of fuel was getting stronger. "You," he pointed to a college kid with a backpack. "I need your belt. You." He nodded to a construction worker. "Find me something to pry with. Anything metal. Move." They didn't question him. Something in his voice, his presence, commanded instant obedience. This wasn't a homeless man anymore. This was someone who'd been in charge before, someone who knew how to lead when everything was falling apart. The construction worker returned with a crowbar from an emergency kit. Marcus wedged it against the door frame, using the college kid's belt as additional leverage. Metal groaned, then gave way with a sharp crack. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" he called into the darkened car. A weak voice responded, "Here. I'm here. My leg." Marcus squeezed through the opening. Inside, the car was a twisted maze of seats and debris. He found her pinned beneath an overhead luggage rack, conscious but bleeding from a head wound. "What's your name?" he asked, checking her pulse. "Sarah. Is my husband?" "He's fine. He's right outside waiting for you." "Sarah, I need you to stay calm. I'm going to get you out of here, but I need you to do exactly what I tell you. Can you move your fingers?" She wiggled them. "Good. No spinal damage." "Now your toes." She nodded. "They hurt, but they move." Marcus carefully lifted the luggage rack, inch by inch, while supporting her injured leg. Years of combat medicine training guided his hands. He'd done this before, under fire, with bullets snapping overhead and mortars falling around him. "On 3, I'm going to lift you. 1, 2, 3. He carried her out of the wreckage like she weighed nothing, passing her gently to her husband's waiting arms. But there was no time to rest. More voices were calling from the second car. For the next 47 minutes, Marcus Webb was everywhere at once. He organized civilians into rescue teams, directing them with the precision of a seasoned officer. He crawled into twisted metal to reach trapped passengers. He administered first aid with supplies scrounged from purses and backpacks. When a small fire broke out near the electrical panel, he calmly used his worn jacket to smother the flames. When a pregnant woman went into shock, he held her hand and talked her through breathing exercises while directing others to keep her legs elevated. The first responders arrived to find the scene already organized. Victims were sorted by injury severity. Exit routes were cleared. A makeshift triage area had been established using bench cushions and donated clothing. Fire Chief Rodriguez surveyed the scene with amazement. "Who's in charge here?" A dozen fingers pointed to Marcus, who was kneeling beside an elderly man with a broken arm, fashioning a sling from his own shirt. "You," Rodriguez called out. "What's your background?" Marcus looked up, sweat and soot streaking his weathered face. "Marine Corps, 3 tours, combat medic certification." "Rank?" "Gunnery sergeant, retired." Rodriguez nodded with understanding. "How many casualties?" 47 injured, ranging from minor to serious. No fatalities. 3 need immediate hospital transport. The woman with the possible internal bleeding, the kid with the concussion, and the man with chest pains. The rest can wait for regular ambulances. The fire chief stared at him. In 30 years of emergency response, he'd never seen a civilian organize a disaster scene with such precision. "Gunnery sergeant, we could use someone like you." Marcus shook his head quietly. "I did my part. That's enough." As paramedics took over victim care and investigators began documenting the scene, Marcus quietly picked up his duffel bag and started walking toward the exit. Wait. Sarah, the woman he'd pulled from the first car, was being loaded onto a stretcher. "Please, I don't even know your name." He paused at the platform edge. "Marcus. Just Marcus. How can we thank you?" He looked back at the faces staring at him, the businessman whose wife was alive, the construction worker who'd found his courage, the college kid who'd learned what real leadership looked like. "Take care of each other," he said simply. The businessman stepped forward. "Marcus, wait. You saved my wife's life. You saved all of us. Please, let us help you. Whatever you need, housing, work, anything." Marcus hefted his duffel bag higher on his shoulder. "I appreciate it. I really do, but I'm exactly where I need to be." "But you're—" The man struggled for words. "You're living on the streets." "No," Marcus replied with a slight smile. "I'm living with purpose. There's a difference." He disappeared up the stairs into the New York evening, leaving behind 47 people who would never forget the homeless man who wasn't what he seemed. Later that night, as news crews interviewed survivors, the story began to emerge. Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Webb, decorated Marine veteran, had been living on the subway platforms for 8 months. Not because he had to, but because he chose to. A reporter tracked down his military records: 3 Purple Hearts, Silver Star, Navy Cross. 18 years of exemplary service, including multiple combat deployments and a spotless record of bringing his men home alive. After retirement, he had worked as a paramedic, then a firefighter, then emergency management coordinator. Always the first one in, last one out, always taking care of others before himself. His daughter, reached by phone in California, wept as she explained. After Mom died, Dad he couldn't sit still in a house anymore. He said he needed to be where he could help people who really needed it. We tried to talk him into moving in with us, but he said his mission wasn't finished. The businessman whose wife Marcus had saved started a GoFundMe campaign. Within hours, it had raised over $50,000. But when they went looking for Marcus to give him the money, he was gone. The platform workers said he'd packed up his cardboard sign and disappeared. Some thought he'd moved to another station. Others believed he'd finally accepted help and found housing. But 3 days later, there was a report from the Port Authority bus terminal. A homeless veteran had organized an evacuation when a gas leak was detected, potentially saving hundreds of lives. Witnesses described him as an older man with a gray beard, carrying an Army surplus duffel bag. Then a week after that, reports came in from Grand Central. A vagrant had administered CPR to a businessman who'd collapsed during rush hour, refusing to leave until paramedics arrived. Same description. Same quiet competence. Marcus Webb had become a ghost in the system, appearing wherever he was needed most, then vanishing back into the invisible world of New York's forgotten heroes. Some people serve their country in uniform, with medals and ceremonies and parades. Others serve in silence, with no recognition except the knowledge that when crisis strikes, they'll be ready. They'll be there. They'll do what needs to be done. Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Webb chose the second path. He traded his sergeant's stripes for a cardboard sign, his military housing for a concrete platform, his veterans' benefits for the freedom to go where he was needed most. He didn't want thanks. He didn't want fame. He didn't want your pity or your charity. He just wanted to serve. One more mission, one more life saved, one more chance to prove that some warriors never truly leave the battlefield. They just find new ways to fight. The train derailment at 42nd Street was just another day at the office for Marcus Webb. Because for some men, the mission never ends. It just changes location. So the next time you see someone the world has forgotten, someone the city walks past without seeing, remember Marcus. Remember that heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear worn-out clothes and carry everything they own in a faded duffel bag. Sometimes they're exactly where they need to be, doing exactly what they were born to do. Watching, waiting, ready to answer the call when it comes. Because in the end, it's not the medals or the recognition that define a warrior. It's the willingness to stand up when others fall down, to run toward danger when everyone else runs away, to save lives even when your own life has been forgotten by the world. That's the story of Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Webb, the homeless hero of 42nd Street, the man who proved that sometimes the most invisible people are the ones we need to see the most.